All right, what's up, y'all? It's your girl Malika checking in with another episode of From the Block podcast. And as you can see, we have a really dope group discussion in store today. So, as you know, the 2024 election is literally 59 days away. This is Saturday, no, September 7th. So, we're 59 days away from this November election. And I just feel like Gen Z has a lot to say, and the news media, says the same thing as well. So I mean, why not, kick off the discourse and just see what does my generation have to say? So please give it up for Hudson and Ariana. Yay. Okay, so what is your biggest concern about this upcoming election?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. My biggest concern about the upcoming election really is that is really the misinformation that goes around.
Okay.
I feel like voter turnout has taken like such a rise, such an increase. However, it's not backed properly, right? People are voting based off of feelings, emotions, and Instagram captions as opposed to, actual research, as opposed to actual policy change. And so if we can get back on that horse, then I think the election will be fine.
For me, I definitely think it's, both candidates have a lot to say about their platforms, but once they get into office, is actually going to start implementing the things that they're talking about. There's so much going on in our own country, and we're putting so much money into other countries and foreign situations that are going on. But hopefully, and what my biggest concern is that once the election is over, whoever does get elected is going to work on the problems in America and make it a better place for Gen Z, for American citizens, for people who want to enter this country. I think that's definitely my biggest concern.
Oh, also slightly off topic, which I should have introduced this in the beginning. But you guys are a part of the Georgia Young Democrats chapter.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So they ain't just talking just to talk, y'all. Okay, so what is y'all's biggest concern about this upcoming election? Because it's a few. If we're just being transparent.
I can go on.
Nah, go ahead, Ari.
Honestly, I mean, if a borderline dictator gets elected into office, I'm definitely gonna be really scared. I mean, ever since he got elected, in all honesty, in 2016, the rights of women and Black people, and just the rights of American citizens in general, has decreased, gone down.
Been in jeopardy.
Yeah, we're in jeopardy. We're in a dire time. And I think my biggest concern is that if he does get elected, it's just going to keep getting worse. It really is.
Yeah, my biggest concern personally is that that what happened on January 6th will continue and multiply tenfold across America. Like the amount of violence, the amount of just not having concern at all for human decency or human life, rights, or just being a decent person in general will just go completely and totally out the window because somebody who decides to be a racist, misogynist, bigot can run for office after being elected, after being found as a criminal.
In addition, yeah, convicted
You know what I mean?
felon.
How you get 14 convicted felonies and still able to run for office. On top of that, you have this following behind you that. So one thing I will say, right, is that they are exuberantly loyal to him, and I don't know why, right?
It's because they're cool.
I don't know why. I couldn't explain it to you, but that to me is scary, no matter who it is.
So then what's your response to when someone would say, well, on the flip side, that's how I would describe the Democrats to Kamala. Well, not even just Kamala, but
The Democratic Party.
Yeah,
and being loyal to Joe Biden, even though that we've kind of seen, some changes within the past 2 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the one thing I will say is that maybe it's just me looking in on Gen Z. Maybe it's me in my small bubble at Morehouse College. But also speaking with some of the other people is that the Democratic Party, my generation specifically, is sick and tired of and excuse my French, but sick and tired of the bullshit. Like we are more than capable and more than willing to hold our officials accountable. We talk about it amongst ourselves. We talk about it outside. We talk about it on podcasts like these, but we come out here and we tell these people when they're wrong. For example, which is most recently Israel, right? That's not okay. That's not right. A genocide should never and will never ever be justified, right? So, and the main people who were out here holding these protests, talking about how this needs to be corrected, talking about how something needs to be done on the side of Joe Biden, on the side of Kamala Harris, right? Was the Democratic Party, were those progressive students out there at Emory, the ones at USC, the ones here at Morehouse College as well, and Spelman. So one thing I will say is that the Democratic Party, while we do have this this sense of, I don't even want to say loyalty, but we have like this strength behind our party. We also know that when you love something and when you want something to succeed, you need to hold it accountable, right? And you need to have these sort of critical views behind it.
So Ariana, last time that you were here, of course, everyone knows like there's a massive change in the presidential
Definitely. Yes.
nominee for the Democratic Party. So this is like a 2-in-1 question. So how do y'all generally feel about that change?
I honestly feel much better. I'm a lot more enthusiastic. Of course, my support was fully behind President Biden, whether he was going to run or not. I definitely am a blue up and down the ballot, but make sure you're educated type of person. And so my support was fully behind President Biden. But now that it's VP Harris on the ticket, I'm even more excited because she is a black woman. She graduated from an HBCU. Shout out Howard. And so it's just so much better now that I'm able to see myself and also see someone who young Ariana wouldn't have been able to see running for president of the highest office in the world. It's a lot more refreshing knowing that, especially since she's younger than both of our potential, candidates. It's definitely a lot more refreshing and exciting to be a part of such a historic time.
Now, some people still struggle with the concept of race, ethnicity, and nationality. So, what are y'all's response to when people say, "Well, she's not technically black," or she's pandering to the black audience because that's what the Democratic. I'm just hearsay.
Yeah.
I'm just hearsay. They didn't come from me. That's what the Democratic Party typically likes to do: pander to the black community. So then, what's y'all's response to her, quote unquote, claiming her blackness for votes?
I mean, in all honesty, you can look at any interview of her ever since she was even district attorney in California. She is a black woman. She speaks the way that she was raised. People have also never heard of code switching all of a sudden. You're going
Yeah,
to,
I don't know why that's such a big thing.
you're going to speak different in different environments to appeal to the fan base that you are talking to. Like when I'm on the phone and on business calls, I'm not going to talk the same way that I'm going to talk to my friends. It's just not going to happen. People really need to look and dissect and find their inner racism because that's all that's being portrayed when anybody tries to correct or identify the way that she's speaking or the way that she acts.
The other thing is that for some reason, well, it's not for some reason. It's very misogynist. Is that whenever a woman does anything, especially a black woman running for such a high position of power, all of the possible critical or wrongdoings that could ever have been said or ever have been fathomed come out towards her tenfold, right? Kamala Harris has been and always will be a black woman. I'm from Oakland personally, right? That's where I'm from. I grew up there. I've met Kamala Harris before while she was DA. Kamala Harris has always been a black woman growing up in the Bay, with her heritage, with everything that comes behind her. Like, yes, her mother is from I'm forgetting where. She's from India. I'm forgetting where exactly. But being raised in the Bay, right? Growing up that way, moving through as a DA, going into Senate, she's always claimed her blackness. She's never once tried to conform or move any way other. And when she comes into spaces and she commands the room and she commands that she be heard and that she be addressed as an equal, or to be addressed as who she is with her qualifications, it's always been with that of a black woman.
I know we talked about you all answered, what are your biggest concerns of this upcoming election? I would say a huge thing. I don't know, and tell me like your honest response. I don't know if America is, actually ready to accept the first woman of color president. And the reason why I say this is because back in 2016, I remember the discourse around Hillary and Donald Trump. And I remember a lot of people saying, they had a lot of negative things to say about Hillary Clinton, more so of because of her gender.
Mm.
And mind you, that's a white woman. So she has top privilege in America. And, although, Donald Trump, he's at the time he's which he still does now, is saying, a whole bunch of crazy things, especially back in 2016. I don't think a lot of people really, I feel like they underestimated the power of his supporters, which is a crazy thing to say, but I mean,
Right.
it's real because, he won the election. So do you all generally think that this country is ready for, the first woman of color president? But also sometimes what I think about as well, during that time, because I was too young to vote. So that was really like millennials' time to shine
Yeah.
during that time, and they really dropped the ball.
Indeed.
So I guess okay. So the two questions: one, do you think America is ready for its first woman of color president? And two, do you think Gen Z will have to be the one to step up to really, save the election?
Definitely. I think America has been ready. I think it's long overdue to have a woman president. We want to be able to see ourselves in these offices, not only at the presidential level, but in local offices, in city councils, state representatives. We want to be able to see ourselves. And if we do not have a female president, then how is a majority of the country supposed to see themselves? Um, and on the Gen Z part, like you said, like a lot of us were not able to vote in the last election. But now that we are, and now that we are turning up, like we're doing things like this, we're holding these elections for the Young Democrats of Georgia. We're outside, we're calling our elected officials and pushing them to force these bills and talk to other lawmakers. We're pushing an agenda that hasn't been pushed before,
Mm-hmm.
and we're pushing it at full force because we know the severity of this election. So Gen Z is definitely taking it by storm, and it will 100% make or break it.
If America isn't ready, they better get ready because it's gonna happen. That's the way I see it at this point. There are so many other offices, local offices and federal offices, that are occupied by women of color. So it's about time that the president, the highest office in the world, highest office in America, is occupied by women of color as well, right? Um, will Gen Z come out and show out as they did before? Absolutely, tenfold. Not only that, but we're holding all the other generations, every other person accountable to do the same as well, right? We're pushing out our votes, and if we can do it at 19, 20, and 21, then why can't everybody else do it at 24, 25, and 26, right? 32. It's time for you to get out and use your vote, and use your voice because you have it, right?
So do you all think that the Democratic Party, do you think they pander to, I would say, like social and celebrity culture? And just to elaborate,
Yes,
using particular marketing tactics to, I guess, reach a particular demographic
indeed.
of individuals. And do you think that can come off as a distraction from, the focus of real issues?
Definitely. I mean, we can see even just the switch from Biden to Harris, the use of like the Brat album by Charlie XCX, like it's a Brat summer, it's a Harris summer, all
Yeah.
of it. They're definitely
Mm-hmm.
trying to cater to a demographic that has never voted before and may not know what's going on. I think them using social media and using all of these different celebrity statuses to get their point across is a necessity in both parties. We want people to not only vote for Kamala Harris, but just to go out and vote. I feel like it's our civic duty. It's something that we all need to do. So they're both platforms and both candidates are using what they have to their advantage. And at this point, like you said, there's not much time before the election, so they're doing it as much and as hard as possible to appeal to these young voters.
Yeah. You're absolutely correct. The Democratic Party does indeed cater to a very specific demographic, from generations to racial class to ethnicity to economic class. Right, the
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Party does that a lot, and they do it very well. Also, they do it very apparently. Right, it's not subtle. It's not subtle at all. For example, just the use of music, the use of "They Not Like Us" by Kendrick Lamar. That song came out,
Freedom by Beyonce.
Freedom by
Yeah.
Beyonce. Um, so like that's just on the music aspect, right? Of entrance songs, getting people to come out. But also, as Ariana said, the use of social media. This isn't the use of social media like posting an article or posting a news outlet. This is things like memes, posts, Instagram captions. Like they're doing any and everything possible to cater to the youngest audience, to those that will be on their phones 24/7, and to those that have these everybody calls it American culture. I call it the African American culture, right? Because that's what it is. That cater and subscribe to this African American culture of hip hop, dance, graffiti art. Like this is what the Democratic Party prides itself on catering to get that audience to come out and vote. Because historically, that's the audience who's the most least likely to vote and the most that's willing to be on their side, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, we all know that there are marketing tactics because of course if you're selling something, you have to know how to
Right.
market. But do you think that it's also a distraction?
Mm.
Like do they use these particular things to distract people? Well, okay, let me use a different word. I wouldn't necessarily say a distraction, but do you think they use this as like I don't know what word I'm trying to think of, as I guess in a way to where we don't really focus on the important things? Because I know, as an add-on, some people say, well, why should I vote if Martin Luther King Street has been the same now for 20 years
Yeah.
and nothing's going to change?
Mhm.
Or like I stay on Edgewood, I'm struggling, but you want to bring Megan Thee Stallion to perform.
Right.
Like that's not going to persuade me.
Yeah. Is it a distraction? Yes, because I feel like ultimately, the memes, the Instagram captions, the performances, the music, it doesn't really get people to actually go out and use their civic duty. It doesn't get people to go out and canvas. It doesn't get people to go out and do their research. Ultimately, as you said, it's just drawing people in. Oh, I like Kamala Harris because she plays Beyonce. But what do you? Okay, that's nice.
Name one of her policies.
Right. What else do you
Yeah.
know about Kamala Harris? Right. What else? And what is she going to do for you? Right. What is she going to do for your family? What is she going to do for the street that you live on? What is she going to do for your community? These are all questions that need to stem from you just liking the music or you just liking her bringing out an artist like Megan Thee Stallion. Right. Ultimately, the Democratic Party brings these people out to get a mass following. Right. To have this sort of performative piece, but they also fail when it comes to getting people to actually do the research and come out behind their votes, which both parties do. They actually fail tremendously. But if the Democratic Party can do better, then
I think, in all honesty, it's something that social media does a lot. I notice 9 times out of 10, if there's like a huge world problem going on, all of a sudden there's a trend on social media that's filling up your timeline, and now that's all that you're gonna see. That's a problem with social media, and I think both campaigns are using that to their advantage. They're going to take advantage of the fact that social media polarizes communities, and especially the Black community, because we use social media a lot to get our information. So they're going to push these agendas, just like when Trump went to the Chick-fil-A in the West End.
my
Like, you're
God.
going to
Oh
a
my
Black
God,
community,
please.
you know that is going to
Yeah,
go
that was
viral.
terrible.
It was horrible.
It was so
The
much.
uproar in
That was
like
really bad.
the uproar in the community was so heavy immediately when that happened. They're going to use tactics like this to cover up other problems that are wrong with our country, and even their policies that the majority of people do not agree with. They're going to have these viral moments, and they're going to try to make all of these things happen to cover up their faults.
Yeah. What's one of your Spelman sisters in that photo?
I think I might know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
It was actually a Clark Atlanta cousin,
So-
not a Spelman sister.
No,
So
so-
let's just
Yeah, that was the one who orchestrated it, but there was definitely a Spelmanite in there standing next to Trump with the Spelman hand up.
all right.
Okay, Hudson. So, previously, you had mentioned about the current genocide going on between Israel and Palestine, and we all know the Republicans' response in regards to the genocide. And we've heard rhetorics from different Democrats in regards to their response to the genocide. Do you all feel one concern of this upcoming election? Many people that there are many people that are unhappy with the Democrats' response, you know, in regards to the genocide, and as a result, that could put some votes in jeopardy.
Um, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a conversation that we have a lot on campus.
Yeah.
But also going back home, like traveling to different states as well. When I was up in New Jersey for the summer, this was a conversation that was had up and down the board, which is like when it comes to international policy, when it comes to our international footprint, America has a responsibility. Whether we want to address it or not, we do have a responsibility, right? Especially when it comes to a country like Israel, right? Especially when it comes to a people, a country like Palestine, which wasn't even recognized for so long, right? So do I feel like that's going to jeopardize how the Democrats or how the people vote in America? Absolutely, because never once has a genocide ever been justified, right? It never once has been. And so when we change up the demographic of the person now, when we change up who exactly is being murdered, now this is an entirely different topic. Now it's controversial and now it's sensitive. Before, this was an issue and it needed to end and it needed to be ended and it needs to stop and it could never happen again. But now it's we have to step back because they're our allies. Oh, we can't do as much because it's a sensitive. No, let's call a spade a spade. This is genocide. You're murdering innocent people, women, children, and young men who have done nothing wrong.
I definitely think, even like Hudson mentioned, like this is a conversation that I have on the regular with my friends on campus and off campus. And it's a lot of the deciding factors of people who are deciding if they are going to vote and who they are going to vote for if they do vote. The war, and not only the war going on in Gaza, but the genocides happening all around the world, in Congo, in Haiti. There's so many things going on in so many different countries, but you only hear about politicians caring about it if it happens to white people.
Man, all the attention on Israel and Palestine.
Yeah. And so you're not going to hear about these other countries that have so many issues going on. And the fact that America is a world power, and of course Israel is one of our allies, and I think people also fail to, realize that. So it's not just a simple 1, 2, 3, let's stop giving them guns, even though that does need to happen. We need to stop. It's something that people need to look deeper into and not just take it for face value, because we can all listen to politicians, but politicians lie. Regardless of who they are, politicians are a bunch of liars, and they're all going to say exactly what the people want to hear. So we need to start doing our own research and figuring out how we can hold them accountable for their actions and what they're saying, because you can say ceasefire, you can say free Palestine, you can say all these things, but if you're not doing the things to back up what you're saying, then what you're saying is a whole bunch of nothing.
It's all performative, right?
Yeah.
It's all performative. Like, this reminds me of what happened over the summer. Like, I think I told you about this, but I was questioned because, so with Morehouse, I'm also a study abroad ambassador, so I travel every semester with the school, right? And one of our trips was to Israel, right? It was to study the religious impact on conflict. It was to study the connections between Judaism and Christianity, right? And ultimately, while we were learning about the Holocaust, and we learned about so many other genocides. We learned about how Israel became a state, but also what we were told is the country that is the country that is Palestine, that territory as they call it, is pretty much unjustified, and they don't recognize it as a people, right? And I said, this doesn't make any sense, and I'm only hearing from the Israeli point of view. So what we did in Morehouse, you guys may not like this, and all those students that are with me, I may be snitching, but it's okay. We, on our own, right, a group of 6 or 7 of us, went over to Palestine, right?
Wow.
In some of our own free time. We went over to Palestine. This is like pre-October 7th. This is the summer before October 7th. We went over to Palestine, right? We took our own tour of a compound, right, where students and families lived, where they learned, ate, prayed, all in one compound that was like no bigger than Morehouse or Spelman's College campus.
Wow.
Right? They all lived there their entire lives. And what we learned from them and how it compared to what we learned while we were in Israel did not match up. It didn't match up at all. Right?
Wow.
So learning the information, being able to come back and having that on our own minds, like that's just the initiative. That's just an example, right, of the initiative that we need to take as people while we're here. You don't need to go to Israel and Palestine to learn about these things. Everybody has a supercomputer in your pocket. It's not hard to go in here and learn about these things. But even still, is that this was the question, like this was someone questioning my motives for going over to Israel, right? For wearing a kufiya, for saying free Palestine. But what I also noticed is that same person didn't ask me about the Congo. They didn't ask me about the Ivory Coast. They didn't ask me about Liberia or Senegal or any of these other places that are going through the same thing, if not worse.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
so
propaganda. People will only ever listen to whatever the shade room is telling them to listen
Exactly.
to.
exactly.
Even see that okay, so even apart from black blogs, which is a whole other podcast episode about the misinformation and the rhetoric that's spewed on black blogs, but what about the misinformation that's spewed on popular, I would say, like TV networks, and just not even in regards to like Fox News or anything like that, MSNBC, CNN, just the statement that you just made about what you saw during your trip. Why do you think stories like that are not heavily showcased to the masses?
It's so hard to find unbiased news sources, especially nowadays, because a lot of these news sources are being funded by large political figures or these super PACs
Mm-hmm.
that are able to just donate money wherever they want to donate money. Um, so it's definitely difficult to find unbiased news sources that aren't going to just cater to their audience. And we really just have to look up the large makeup of who the rich people are in America, which is 9 times out of 10 the Jewish community. And a lot of them are the heads and CEOs of these, different organizations. So they're going to listen to who's in charge. They're going to, and whatever issue is at hand, they're going to listen to these people and who their audience is. And it's definitely something that needs to, of course, again, be taken like a very larger look at, because like I said, like these super PACs are funding these politicians and making them lose or win elections on their own free will. And it's just difficult to find these unbiased news sources. It's really like you have to dig deep if you want to find something that isn't leaning one way or another, but it's just giving you straight facts and information on what's going on.
Yeah. The reason that I would say like stories like mine don't really get publicized as much is because ultimately there's no money in it, right? Not only is there no money, but there's no real interest, right? Other than, oh, let's go travel, let's go see the world. Like what people hear versus what is being said are two completely and totally different things. That's just from basic conversation, but that's also when it comes to social media, when you can switch around media, when you can do things like edit stuff out, when you can do things like put different sentences and words together, right? It all comes out differently. So these stories are, and as you said before, like it's dangerous and it's sensitive, right? To put these sort of put this information out.
So, as we all know, well, because you all just mentioned it as well, Google is free, to summarize. So, of course, we know presidency is very important, but there are so many other factors that play into, policy making, different things of that nature. So, do you all feel like Gen Z expectations are too high in regards to what they want from a political candidate, as well as, particular policy expectations?
I would say 1000%. I think a lot of people fail to realize the president doesn't control every single thing. That's why we have state representatives. That's why we have capitals in every single state where we have senators and we have Congress people and we have city council. People look at the president like, okay, if this is what the president is saying, then this is what's going to happen directly to my community. But like you had mentioned, like people are worried about like, the street there's potholes. Okay, you have city and elected officials that you can call. You can walk up to their office and be like, listen, there's a problem in my community right now. You're my representative. What are you going to do about it? We don't have that kind of access to the president, so that's just never going to happen. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that and need to use their voices. And like you said, Google is free. Like you can search all this stuff up on the internet. It takes 5 seconds. Who's my state representative? It takes 5 seconds to do that kind of stuff. People are putting so much pressure on the president on every single issue when, we can blame everything on the president and we can blame everything on the presidential race. But if you're, as a person, not going to go out and do your part to make the community different, then all you're doing is talking. That's all.
Absolutely. I already quite literally said like how I was going to start. So all I can really do is add on to that. And my only add on is if Gen Z in our lifetime, right? I'm 21. In 21 years, 22 years of life, the marginalization and the discrimination that we have seen, and the issues have been to the extreme, right? Something that America has never seen before. So if we can expect to see that, then I feel like our expectations on our officials, right, on those who are supposed to be in the position to solve these problems, should be extreme as well, right? That's the way I see it. If we can expect extreme problems, then we need extreme solutions, right? Yeah, that's the way I'm going to put it.
I mean, yeah, I had a call with one of our state representatives yesterday, and she was telling me, she was like, I really don't get any communication, or I don't get any calls from young people like us who are in college and who are actively doing this work, but she's getting like letters from kindergarteners about like, I don't like my school lunch. If a kindergartner can do it, I think we could do it too. And it's really disheartening. When she said that, I was like, damn, like we do all this work and all this talk, but people aren't actually trying to go out and actively make a difference.
Yeah.
We have state representatives here. We're their constituents. They have to listen to what we say. Utilize them. They're not just there for show. They're there because they're in the House for, especially in Georgia, they're in that House for 40 days consecutively, nearly. We have to use them to our advantage. We have to show up to their office. We have to put pressure on them so we can see what we want in our own communities. And of course, the president is going to be a face for that, because that's what we see. We see Democrat and Republican. That is who we're seeing on social media, and that's who we're seeing trying to appeal and get our vote. But we have all of these other offices within our own communities that we need to put more pressure on as well and utilize them.
Right. And to Ari's point as well is that Gen Z has also seen, like from the kindergarten example, we've seen these other generations, we've seen the people who are with us do things like that may seem minute, but they're actually so like they have so much power behind them. For example, shout out my man Bryce Berry. He's running, right? He's Gen Z. He graduated when I was at Morehouse College. He is running for a state seat in Georgia right now for a district seat, right? Against a woman who we all, while our time at Morehouse, had very, very strong concerns about, right? And then she proved us all right by switching her party. So at first she was running as a Democrat, and then she switched to the Republican Party.
Mid-session,
she switched.
Sheesh.
How does that happen? And how can that?
How does that happen?
Like, how is that okay?
How's that even legal?
Like, how is nobody addressed this, right? And Bryce Berry said, you know what? This isn't okay. Not only has she been in our district for this long, and none of us have really seen her unless we go to the Capitol, but on top of that, she's proposed things that do not work within the AUC. Right? They do not work within the communities around the AUC either. And Bryce said, well, we can sit here and complain all day, or somebody can go do something. And Bryce got up and went and did something. This is Gen Z. That's a perfect example, right, of being up and down the ballot, of Gen Z saying this isn't right, and we need a solution. If no one else is going to do it, then we will.
So the final question, what do you think are some of the biggest struggles of this generation? I feel like there's a whole list.
I feel like I could go on.
We definitely could go on and on.
Reproductive rights, maternal mortality, voting rights.
I mean, just
housing crisis.
Man,
housing crisis.
Just on the human rights perspective alone, which shouldn't even be an issue at this point. It's 2024. What do you mean I can't buy? What do you mean I can't live? What do you mean I can't buy groceries? Right? What do you mean I can't? What do you mean I'm not qualified for food stamps? Right? That's just on a human rights perspective, being able to eat, sleep, have shelter and water, clean water, right? Not to mention policy, not to mention economics, not to mention education, not to mention safety. Actually, let's talk about that. On Wednesday, right? Because I can get into this on and on and on. On Wednesday, there was a school shooting less than an hour away from Atlanta, Georgia. 4 people died, 2 students and 2 educators. How does that happen? It's 2024. How does that happen, right? Not only that, the suspect's name is Colt Gray, or not even suspect, the one who was arrested, the one who did it, right? His name is Colt Gray, a 14-year-old that got access to, once again, an AR-15 and went to school with it and shot 4 people. What if you do more research, you'll also know that he moved counties, school districts, right? And at his first school district, he was suspected because he said
Yeah,
that
I
he would
seen
do
that.
a school shooting, right? He said he would do a school shooting. And less than a year later, and then the police, I believe it was the FBI, but also it was the county police, right? Came to his house.
The FBI got
was the
involved as
FBI.
well.
Right, the
Yeah.
FBI as well. The FBI and the county police came to his house, questioned his parents, questioned him, and all he said was, "Oh, it wasn't me. Somebody else framed me. It wasn't me." Essentially, is what he said. His parents said, "Yes, we have guns, but they're locked up. He doesn't have access." You think your child doesn't watch you? You think your child doesn't see what you do? No, he doesn't have access to our guns. He doesn't do. Then why is he threatening? Why? There's something else. There needs to be more. All he said was, I didn't do it," and then they left. The school district was notified, right? The county was notified, and then he moved schools. How does that information not follow you to your next school, to your next district? This is what we need to implement. This is what's so very important. There's no way that information can get lost in 2024 when these threats are very real.
I think another disheartening thing as well. I forgot his name. It's the one that Trump picked as his VP. Y'all remember his
JD
name?
Vance.
Vance.
Yeah, his response to it was just. I'm paraphrasing, but basically like it is what it is. Like
He
things
said
are
it's like
just
a fact of life.
yeah,
Bro,
fact
what
of
are
life.
you
Like it's
on
just
You
gonna
mean I
about,
happen.
can't go to school anymore?
Weird.
I can't go to
it's
school?
You're weird for that.
It's really
Like,
disheartening because it's like you don't care. You generally like, and it's so crazy how in this country we've just become so desensitized to
Man,
children dying
man.
and teachers and faculty dying.
Man.
It's very scary, honestly.
especially with social media. I've been seeing on my like TikTok For You page, I've at least seen like 15 different videos of students from that day, from that school, talking about their experience. And you can just see the shell shock in their face. You can see the trauma in their face from something that just happened to them. And you're going to sit there and say it's a fact of life. There is no reason that students who are just trying to get educated should be going to school in fear of the fact that somebody is going to come up and shoot their school up, especially when it's one of their peers.
Like, this is a mandatory thing you have to do. You do realize if you don't go to school,
They're coming after
the
you.
truancy officer will come to your house,
Yeah.
right?
They're coming after you.
But if I'm scared for my life, now I'm a truant. This is crazy. This is crazy.
No, it's literally it's very disheartening. It's really insane. I feel like another issue as well because I'm seeing it's just so much rhetoric that I'm seeing either online or even just like you could be like outside somewhere just hearing people
Mhm.
talk. And I feel like the housing crisis, the inflation going on is although like there have been reports that we've actually made improvements, a lot of people are still struggling.
Man,
Mhm.
That's just it is. And I've seen people say, oh well, I'm excited for Trump to get back into office, so I can get another check. And it's like
Oh my god.
all the money,
I hate when
If
people
I hear
say
that
that.
one more
all the money that
time.
we were getting in 2020. That's the reason why we're in this situation.
Like-
literally.
And whenever people are like, Trump gave me my stimulus check,
Did
Trump
he?
didn't do nothing.
Did he?
Trump signed a bill from Congress where Congress was giving you your money.
Man,
Wasn't Trumpy.
here
not.
once again, Google is free. Bing too. Okay? And Safari.
That's that thing with misinformation. People are really going to listen to whatever news outlet is feeding them what they want to hear. If they want to hear that Trump is giving them money, then they're going to hear that. If they
Mhm.
want to hear that Kamala Harris is putting 4,000 black men in jail, they're going to hear
Man.
that. It's
You know,
not true.
And that's so interesting because that even before the presidency, even when she was running for when Joe Biden had first announced
Yeah.
that he had picture for his VP,
Yeah, uh-huh.
and that was the thing that was going on. And it's like, no, y'all. First of all, you acting like it was just random black men.
Like she was
that
just like,
she was
I'm
sweeping
gonna pick you, and you're gonna go to jail.
No.
These were like
literally.
rapists
No.
and like real life, like
Drug
messed
dealers.
up people. So y'all need to chill with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, a lot of it was around drugs, like weed, as it was getting more and more prevalent in the Bay Area, especially in Oakland. But that was her job as the DA. Like, that's what she wanted to do. That's what she had to do.
These weren't
actually.
just
She's a
random people.
prosecutor.
Like,
She
she-
was-
Yeah.
It was her job.
She's quite literally
She
prosecuting
is- and
criminals.
it was nowhere near. They're acting like she was sitting in court for all 4,000 black men and just being like,
The crazy part is
he's
she
gonna go to
didn't
jail
even.
for this.
She didn't even put away 4,000 black men.
It was like
ultimately,
four.
you
It was
literally.
like-
Yeah, it really wasn't even
it
that
was-
much.
It was
And
definitely less than 20.
People love to focus on the negative things, but she has put in so many programs for rehabilitation of these black men to go back into these communities, informed, knowledgeable, with degrees while they were in jail. People focus on the horrible stuff that is being spread about every single candidate up and
Man.
down the ballot, red or blue.
Man.
They're not doing their own research. So you're going to sit there, you're going to try to talk to me about something, and I'm going to throw facts back in your face, because if you're going to say something and be misinformed, somebody needs to hold you accountable.
Because Google is free. And then the other
Facts.
thing is connecting it back to the housing crisis. While Kamala Harris was a DA, she did so much work within Section 8 for people to actually get affordable housing so that they could actually provide for their families. Like, Kamala Harris has done more than enough. She's been doing the work since before she was VP, right? Especially around the housing crisis.
Yeah.
It's just
People love to talk about Kamala Harris's track record, but you have Donald Trump in the the New York Times during the Exonerated Five
Please
saying
don't.
that he wants to bring the death
Oh
penalty
my
back for
God.
5 black men who were wrongfully convicted of. People love to talk about track records, but they'll talk about track records all they want when it's beneficial for them and the candidate that they want to vote
For all the black men out there who are
That's
seriously considering voting for Donald Trump, I really want you to just go look at, the Central Park Five. It's on Netflix. I forgot what it's called.
Traumatizing.
It's on Netflix.
When They See Us.
When They See
Yeah.
Us. Go watch When They See Us, right? And then do your own research right after that. You will quite literally see Donald Trump's whole signature and him on a news
Picture of his
like
face.
a picture and a video of him giving an interview saying that these animals need to be executed. Just go watch that if you're seriously thinking about voting for Donald Trump as a black man, because I promise you, he does not want you around.
And not every candidate is perfect. You need to do your research on each candidate, find their flaws, but also find their pros, find what works for you, find what works for your community within each candidate. But you need to make informed decisions and not just base it off of one thing that you might have heard from some person
Or something
along
that
the
you
way.
missed from 4 years ago that got us in
Like-
this messed up predicament now.
Yeah.
Like, hello.
Because what? Because Google is free. I'm gonna walk around saying this now. I love
He's
that.
never gonna stop.
No, literally.
Never gonna stop.
Major facts. So yeah, I need to have y'all back because this was a really, really dope discussion.
Would love to be back.
Oh, off topic, just in regards to inflation, I saw somebody on Twitter say, my daddy used to had a whole second family and he worked at Burger King back in the 90s. Now you can't even do that shit no more.
Whoa.
You can't. Oh,
Whoa.
you can't.
Burger King
You
with 2
can't.
families?
Burger
Bring
King
those
with 2
checks back.
families is crazy.
Bring those checks back.
I'm gonna
Facts.
go work at Burger King if that's what they do over there.
I will definitely be an advisor. You can have it your way.
Facts. Okay, so you can follow Hudson on all social media platforms at
Oh yeah, I'm on Instagram at huddy.bo, huddy.bo. Same thing on Twitter. Yeah, that's all social media I have. I don't do TikTok.
Anyway,
you can follow Ariana at
my Instagram at is at Ariana ARIANA.LEVIN, and my Twitter is Ariana ARIANA. Me forgetting how to spell my name is so crazy. KALEAH.
It's been a long week.
It has been
Yeah, it
a
really
very
has.
long week.
and you know what to do. Follow us at From the Block Podcast. Okay, go vote. Google is free. Call your
Go
state
vote.
reps.
Google is free.